simpler trading, and you can come check me out at profitpilot.com. And we were talking about this last one. Is my favorite setup on the S&P. That is called the trampoline move, and it's when price is below the 50 SMA, but the Moxie indicator is still above zero. Let me go show you that right now. And if you guys like what I'm showing you and how I'm talking about this, you can come over here to profitpilot.com, click on services, and then that's where you can find more information about me. You can get the classes that we sign up, that we set up for, and all of that. And then if we come over here and we look at the actual market, I've got a couple things that I'm looking at as far as going forward. Now, just as a backdrop, keep in mind a few things. Number one, the stimulus bill is like the biggest hot potato I've ever seen between, as far as being politics and all that kind of stuff. It keeps going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and I'm amazed at just how much news comes out about he said, she said, and that's between Mnuchin and Pelosi, and then even some of the other people are getting involved. But holy cow, just kind of tune that out. The market is probably going to be choppy because of that. I would imagine that there's one coming because they keep talking about it, so it's not like it's not going to happen. It's a matter of when is it going to happen and how big is it going to be. Even both sides are saying not going to happen until after the election, but man, just understand that that's going to be a big political football for quite some time as far as the stimulus package. Okay. And then the other thing is we have the election coming up. Now, early voting has already started. Now, I don't know about exit polls, but the point is that now that we've started voting, there will be news reports, there will be interviews. I'm sure there will be things coming out there where we can start getting an idea of who's winning in the election versus just polls that were taken. So there might be some more information coming out, which is going to kind of drive the market up and down based on who's in the lead, whoever person that might be. And then we don't even know. So the election is actually on the 3rd. We don't know if we're actually going to have a clean answer by the 4th. We're getting this mail-in voting ballots, and there are probably going to be some found at certain times, and we don't know if they're all going to be collected. So I just also want to caution you that we may not have a really clear answer right away, and it might take some time for all this to have the dust settle. So keep in mind we could be in some chop for a while. The other thing, I'm going to show you a few examples of what we might be expecting from the market. Now, I know today is down and kind of feeling a little weird out there, and where I was writing that last newsletter, we were right about here, and that was the potential beginning of the trampoline move because price was below the 50, but the Moxie indicator was still above zero. Now, in order for that to hold or to work, I needed price to maintain itself on the 15-minute time frame. It didn't do that. So we got that big wash down earlier this week. Now, the trampoline move is still in existence right here. Price is below the 50. The Moxie indicator is above zero. So technically it's still in play. I don't know if that's going to actually happen or hold, and I'll show you an example of what we're going to be looking at going forward. But what I do want to say, kind of zooming in here on both the hourly and the 15, is that we have not actually gotten rejected by the hourly 50 yet. And I think that is a key note that we need to be aware of. Yes, we're under it. Yes, we have broken through it. And yeah, it feels like we're down. But we have not actually come up and proven that the hourly 50 is resistance and then move down. So we still have that for me and for how I trade and how I look at the markets, I'm still looking at it for potential confirmation to the downside if we're going to get that. So just be aware that if we do start to move up, we still have this hourly 50, which is now, mind you, starting to turn down as potential resistance. The same way to look at that would be on the 15-minute 200, which is this orangey colored line. So keep that in mind. And price is trying to kind of hammer out a bottom. We don't know right here if price is just going to keep breaking down or if that's going to kind of prove itself as a little bit of support and then move up. But then, once again, watch out for that hourly 50. The other thing that I'm looking at is on the daily chart. You can see that there is the left shoulder, and this is the inverted head and shoulders. Like here's your shoulder, here's your head, and then there's the shoulder. Okay. So what we have is we have a big price area consolidation on the left shoulder. And then we had some area on the right shoulder. And when did price, like what, 2 weeks ago, last week, when did price actually explode and come up and form this double top? It did it when price broke past the left shoulder, which is right where this line is. Now, so that was resistance, and then once price was able to get past it, it became, not resistance, and so it got past it and shot up. And price shot up a little too fast, too far, and all that kind of stuff, got overbought and double top, all those things. But then where are we? We are literally right back at it. So this area that was resistance is now support. So this is why, I know that the market's feeling a little bit down. I'm not so sure we're just going to keep breaking down here right now. I would say that I'm looking for price to actually come up at some point and run into the underside of the hourly 50 in order to prove that we're going to get some more downside. Now let me even add a third something, which might be that none of this happens. And what that would look like is, what if price just pinballs back and forth between this support area, which is where the white line is, and maybe the hourly 50, or even just kind of this upper price channel? What if, because of the election and the stimulus and all this stuff that just doesn't happen when we have to wait, what if there really is no direction and we come up and maybe we get rejected by the 50 and we come down, but then we find support at the price area and then we come up and then we just kind of, what if we just kind of do that for the next 11 or so days? And I think that is something very, very possible, and I'll show you some examples of that as well. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to be bearish, because I think that there are a lot of good-looking stocks out there. I think that there are a lot of stocks sitting at their highs and just trading sideways for a while. Yes, now Bob, and good morning, Marina. Yes, the daily does look like a double top, absolutely, and that is why it initially got rejected, because the previous high is usually a natural place of resistance. But you got to think about this: every new high has to be a double top at some point, right? So think about it, and think about what a cup and handle is. A cup with a handle is a double top that eventually made new highs. So just keep that in mind. A double top can be originally a double top, but then later, if it pulls back to support and continues to move up, then we get new highs. So I'm not looking at this as this is a double top and we are now back in bear mode and we're going to start reaching some lows. I'm not there yet. I'm absolutely not there yet. I'm going to have to see some real proof for something like that. If anything, I'm kind of looking at maybe this as a potential double top, or cup with handle with a declining handle, which according to William O'Neill, one of the original How to Trade Stocks, said a declining handle is actually one of the best handles. So keep that in mind. And then we really look at all this price support that we have from right here where this line is, that we still have. More on top of that is the daily 8 is still over the 21 in a significant fashion. So that's not bearish yet. We still have the fast moving average over the slow moving average, and we still have the daily 50 up here and in a somewhat an uptrend. So let me now go off and show you a couple things. So number one, if we look at AMD, this has been an example of kind of how does a trampoline move kind of morph into a not a trampoline move, and it's just not working. Right here, you can see this was originally a trampoline move because price was below the hourly 50 and the Moxie indicator was above 0. Great. Now, tried to take in a trade, didn't work because price couldn't hold and engage with the 15-minute time frame. But then after that, you can see here it tried to form a double bottom, tried to find a level, maybe similar to what the market's trying to do right now, right? And then it moved up, and what did it do? It ran right smack into a downtrending 15-minute 200 and right smack into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50, which is exactly what I'm saying we need to be aware of and just watch out for with the S&P, because now the hourly 50 on the S&P is starting to trend down. And the Moxie indicator is darn close to going negative, and you can see because of the Moxie price trigger, which is that red arrow, that right there is the point at which the Moxie indicator went from positive to negative, and then it happened pretty much as price ran into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. So this kind of might all coincide at the same time. So if you guys aren't familiar with the Moxie indicator or what I do or how I do it, then may I suggest you come over here to profitpilot.com, and you can click on services, and then this is where you can get the Moxie Mastery, which is my alert service, my trading room service. And you can come over here to the Moxie stock class, where you can get the class and the indicator, the scanner, and all the gadgets and goodies that come with it. So if you guys like how I'm talking about this and like what I'm going, how I look at this, the Moxie indicator, this is where you can find more information about it. All right, now let me take you to another few examples that we can talk about. NEO. And what we can see here, actually, let me open this on a bigger, there we go. And let's get this computer up and running. All right. Now, what we can see here is on NEO, you can see that kind of example that I was showing before, right here, with price kind of getting over and then pulling back into the previous high. So I am seeing a lot of tickers. I'm seeing a lot of names that are kind of in this configuration, and even the market to an extent. Now the market didn't make new highs, I get that, but what it did do is on that inverted head and shoulders, we have price now sitting on top of that right shoulder, just kind of in the same fashion that NEO price is actually sitting on top of its previous price support. Very, very similar to what I think that the overall market is doing right now. And look how long NEO traded sideways right over that support before it started to move. And then if we look at some of the other ones that I was using for examples, let's see, I think Nail was one that I was talking about. Nail is the ETF for the home builders. Now, we got out of this one because it did, just like what I was saying for the S&P, and how I said, hey, I want to see price actually get rejected by the underside of the hourly 50. That pretty much happened yesterday, along with a Moxie price trigger. So my channel and I exited our position here because of that situation. So this is the beautiful thing about the Moxie indicator and how I trade and all that kind of stuff. You know, we kind of go up and up and up and up based on the moving average, and then it broke, and what it did is actually it bounced up into the underside of the moving average with the Moxie indicator going negative, and then that's when we exit. Now this may not really implode, it definitely wouldn't be a short, but that's what we kind of look for later. And now look at what we're possibly doing here. Let me see if maybe there's a different line that we can draw, maybe right about here. So if you see this white line that I'm putting in, and this kind of talks about that thing I'm looking at for the S&P, for that, NEO, you can look here that there is previous price support right here at that white line. And where did we then use that for support there? You can see price got on top of it and used it for support, and then we moved up. Now, we don't know if price is going to keep going lower, but it is interesting to note that price is right back on top of that line. And so I'm seeing a lot of names that are in very, very similar positions to this. And I think that is something that we need to keep an eye on and figure out if there's something to do with that along with the overall market. So go ahead and start sending me some names. Let me know if there's anything that you want to be looking at, because that's kind of what I'm considering is we need to be aware if things are pulling back to their previous price support. And maybe they don't go anywhere now, but maybe they also don't fall apart. And that's what I want to be aware of going forward. Let's see. Okay, well, what's the key to swinging overnight from closed to open? Well, that's specifically how I trade. I am an end-of-day trader. And so what I do is I wait for the last hour, half hour of the market, and depending on how it ends, that's when I'm willing to go in. And right here, Nail is actually showing me a pretty good example of that. So, okay, well, to your point, you can see right here that where did price end on Nail on the hourly chart at the end of the day? It ended right smack on top of the hourly 50, and you can see the next morning at the open, look what price did. It jumped up like that. So that is why I'm an end-of-day trader, because if I can figure out where price ended, and if it ended where I want it to end, then I can generally tell where price is going to go the next day. And even to the point, I think here, I think that this was kind of towards the end of the day, you can see that it turned around the next day. So that's how I do that. All right, space. Yeah, Marina, I am viewing this as a pullback so far. You know, we are still generally in an uptrend. And if you see here, let me kind of keep expanding this. I've been starting to draw in these lines, you know, to make sure that I talk the talk that I'm talking about. So you look here, I drew a line here at the previous price high. And then you can see here that line also comes right here, which is where I bought in. I bought in right here because you can see price moved up, pulled back into support of that previous high, and then started to move up. Now, you know, ebbing and flowing, ebbing and flowing. And where are we at right now? We are still above that line. So just from a kind of a trend point or a price support area, I'm looking at that as general support. I'm also looking at, you know, we have a very wide 8 and 21 moat here on the daily chart. So, you know, this thing's still in an uptrend. And generally when that happens, price tends to like to go to the 21. Well, look where the 21 is. It's right also at this line. So yes, we're experiencing a pullback. We've given back some profit, but I'm not viewing this as bearish. I don't want to be getting out yet. I did see some negative divergence. Like you can see here on the hourly chart, price was up. The Moxie indicator was down. However, price, these are all trampoline moves so far. Price was below the 50, Moxie indicator above 0. Price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0. And we're also at the lower third ATR, which is usually about as far as price wants to go. This happens to the top side and this happens to the bottom side. So I'm just viewing these as pullbacks. I'm not willing to be saying, oh, we need to get out, and oh no, this isn't working. I'm not there yet. Also partially because of what I potentially see with the market yet. The market hasn't confirmed bear yet. And the only other thing I could see here is on space, you could see that there was a bit of a gap between price and the hourly 50. And you can see that any time that there's usually a gap between price and the hourly 50, it wants to come back down to it. And even on the daily chart, you can see there's a little bit of a gap between price and the 8 EMA. And let's see, Apple. Let's see what's going on with that one. Let me see if I can bring it down to a lower time frame. So here again is a bit of that example of what I'm talking about. Let me get my trend line. Then we can draw here, and kind of what I'm looking at here. If we draw this line, you know, trend line's not always perfect, but you try and get the idea of what's going on. And if you see here, very similar to what I showed you with the SPY with that head and shoulders, right? We have the left shoulder for the Apple, here's the head, here's the right shoulder. And price was able to really explode, just like the market, when it got past that support area or that resistance area, right? It popped. Now, where is it currently? It's right on it. It's right back into this kind of previous price congestion area. Same thing with the market. Apple has not actually been rejected by the hourly 50 yet. Now, it might in the future, but it hasn't yet. So for me to go short or to call this bearish, I need price to actually get rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. Just the same way that in order to go long, I need price to bounce off of an uptrending hourly 50, kind of like that. So far that hasn't happened. And that's why I'm looking at this as, you know what, we could just be in a whole lot of chop, we could be in a lot of mess. I don't know if we're going to totally fall apart, but I think we're going to be in some chop. And keep in mind we also have earnings coming up, which, you know, that could be a thing because maybe a lot of people are either jockeying for position or they're just going to be holding their breath as we wait for that. And then Luis, I don't think there's anything on FSLY. Yeah, that thing's still in a downtrend. They've been kind of having some issues with TikTok and all that kind of news. And then TTD, this is why I'm not looking at the market being too terrible, you know, because there are some real pockets of strength. In fact, Bob, I was talking about this morning to some of my traders. You know, TTD totally overbought, but now it's coming back to support. You can see it's coming back into the 8 EMA on something like that. And then look, once again, on the hourly chart, trampoline move. Price below the 50, Moxie indicator still above 0. And I was just talking about this to some traders yesterday. I was like, you know, this trampoline move, but I need to see it confirm. And it did a little fake out dip here yesterday. So I couldn't actually make this an official trade. But look what it did today. It shot up, and now it's right back on top of the 15-minute 50. And we have the 8 over the 21 on the hourly chart, and price is back on top of the hourly 50. So this actually looks pretty interesting. It's something that I've been talking about, and for me, if this is going to be a trade, I need price to continue to stay above the 15-minute 50 with the 8 over the 21, and I need to see price generally hold the hourly 50 as well, and that would mean price is going to be holding the daily 8 EMA. So yeah, TTD is definitely on my list as well. And let's see, Microsoft. Yeah, so Fogo, as far as stops, man, stops are always tough to really figure out. I tend to use my moving averages as stops. I like to keep them tight just in case anything goes wrong. I'd rather be out than having to suffer and deal with something. I can always get back in. So I tend to just look at moving averages because a lot of times I see that price really follows and engages with moving averages. And so as long as it can stay above a certain moving average, then we're great. Now, Microsoft, here's kind of that same concept I'm looking at. If we take the trend line, and maybe let's see if we can kind of find a good spot that seems to be fairly consistent. I'd say maybe right about there. And if we draw this, we kind of get into that same concept I was just talking about. You can see that there's kind of a level here, and there's a level here, and then there's a level here, and here with that inverted head and shoulders. And when did price suddenly pop up? When it passed that resistance. And where are we at today? We're really just back at that support area of price. And the daily chart really isn't looking too bad. The 8 is over the 21, and price is sitting right on the daily 50. And then technically, once again, the hourly chart is still technically in a trampoline move because price is below the 50, but the Moxie indicator is above 0. Now this might change. Remember, I showed you AMD. This might continue to melt down, whatever, we're not sure. But until price actually comes up and gets rejected by and hits the underside of the hourly 50, I can't call this stuff bearish yet. I have to view this generally as a pullback in an uptrend. Now, because of the election, because of the stimulus, this stuff may not really go anywhere for the next couple weeks, but I'm not viewing this as bearish. I'm not going to get short, and really I'm only looking for long trades right now because generally things are looking decent, and until something really changes, I'm not going to be changing that tune. Oh, let's see. So Joanne, okay, so you're stuck in some losses. I would generally say it's usually this is why I like to use stops because I think we have a hard time as traders or just humans that we're like we try and use maybe mental stops and we're like oh it'll work out, oh it'll get better, and it just kind of keeps progressively getting worse. And trust me, I've been all through that. My dad always told me, he's like, your first loss is usually your best loss. So this is why I set tight stops. This is why you got to be strict about those stops, and you just got to say, how do I know when a trade is not working? And you just got to say, get out. You just got to get out of something. And so close to the election, well, as I'm saying, I'm not so sure that we're going to be really getting something really moving up forward. Now, I do think we'll get strength in the fact that I don't think we're going to fall apart, but I'm not sure we're really going to get a new trend until after the election. So let's see, you're talking about WPX. Yeah, I mean, WPX doesn't really look like it's been going anywhere anyway. So I'm kind of looking at this one, and my contention would have been, well, it ran right into the underside of a daily 50. So I wouldn't have wanted to get in. Like if I was going to take a trade, it would have been on a lower time frame, and I would have exited right there when price started to fail the hourly 50. Mostly because you could see that price was going to run into the daily 50. Now, if this is any consolation to you, and there's no promises, no guarantees here, but price is coming back down to this area of support, kind of like what I was drawing before. There's support, and on the daily chart, the Moxie indicator is above 0. That is a potential trampoline move. So you do have some internal strength building to the upside potentially. And then you are, basically right here, you're coming back down to test the prior lows, right in through here. And you can see it's actually starting to slow down and trying to turn around. You can see here on the 15 it's trying to stop, Moxie indicator is trying to come up. Now, we don't know, this could kind of wear out that support and then keep going lower, but right now it does look like it's trying to find that area of support and stop going down and move up. The other thing I'll just say is earnings are up here. everything, all my technical analysis goes out the window when it comes to earnings. You just have no idea what it's going to do. So all I can do is say, hey, let's see if it can find some support here and up until earnings, and then after earnings, it's just anybody's guess. Yeah, and then Al, it's kind of what I was saying is, if I'm looking for something bearish, I got to see price at least get rejected by the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. And even if that happens, I think we might really just kind of bounce around and pinball back and forth between support and resistance until probably the election. No, Happy, me being an end of day trader means that I buy in basically just before the market closes. You know, it can be 5 minutes before the market closes. It can be an hour before the market closes. I just want to know where price ends for the day so that I can get into stuff. And David, I am not much of an options specialist. So if you're asking about, so buy a put credit spread under support, then that is one potential play. Now there's no guarantee. You know, we're gonna never know where price is going to go. Things can keep melting down. But yeah, if you wanted to try and make money thinking that, okay, price is not necessarily going to rip roar to the upside, so buying long or buying calls probably not going to work out too well. But I think that maybe price is going to chop or at least not go down. Yeah, generally selling put credit spreads under, or selling spreads underneath would generally be a good concept. Maybe you could do some iron condors, you know, anything like that. Selling premium in chop is generally the right idea to do for things like that. Let's see here. Even if you look at AMD, you draw a line here, and you can see for now it's holding up. You know, here's kind of a area, here's kind of an area, and it's trying to stay above it. But as I said, you still have to keep in mind that even though there is support below you, it can keep kind of going down into it. So make sure if you're going to be trying that strategy where you're selling things below what you perceive as support, just make sure that you have an idea where you can give yourself enough room, maybe enough or not enough duration, and then just figure out when and where you're wrong if you're wrong, because we always need to do that. We always need to know, how am I wrong before we go in. And then let's see, ARKK. Let's just take a couple look at these things. Yeah, well, okay, ARKK. That just was really, really overbought. You know, look, this thing was a great move off of the daily 50, shot up, and what did it do? Overexerted itself. It got off the 8 EMA, it got outside of the 30 ATR, it got super far off of the hourly 50. And then you can see here, once it started to break the hourly 50, it started to really lose some energy and go down. Now, overall, this thing looks like it's in an uptrend. Yes, overall looks like it's an uptrend, but it hasn't stopped pulling back. And this is the thing I have to caution people out there. Pullbacks can be significant. They can be severe. We don't know when or where they're going to go or how far they're going to go and when they're going to stop. So that's why I tend to like to take trades like right here. Notice the Moxie price trigger bouncing off of the hourly 50 and then kind of in through here when they get overbought. And you can see that through the tools that I use right in through here. And then when they start to break, yeah, I just kind of get out and step aside. So that's what I look at, because we never know how far down they're going to be getting. All right, well then that is pretty much all the time that I have here. Guys, remember, if you're interested in kind of learning more about me or the subscription service that I have or the indicators that I use, the Moxie indicator, you can come over here to profitpilot.com, check this stuff out, go over to services, and then remember to set an alert for Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope if you guys are watching from that. That way, anytime I come on Wednesdays at this time, you'll get notified, you'll get an alert, and then you can kind of see where we're at for this kind of live trading, or at least this live in the markets, and see what's going on. So, yep, take care everybody, and I'll see you next week. Let's see what the market does. As I said, keep in mind the election, probably some pinball, the stimulus, all that kind of junk. I'm not looking for the markets to fall apart, but I don't think they're going to be going anywhere too quickly. So